About Heidegger. I've been watching quite a few videos about Heidegger on YouTube, so I guess that's why I'm interested in him right now. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is in relation to, well, again, some of the metaphors that he uses, or that's, you know, obviously I'm not reading him in German, so it might be that I'm completely misinterpreting. Never mind. Some of the metaphors that are used in translations of him, or explanations of his work at least, which, as I've said before, certainly when he's talking about engagement as opposed to reflection, the metaphors tend to be tactile and haptic, and maybe kinesthetic. And in terms of reflection, the metaphors are much more to do with the visual and spectatorship. You know, looking from a distance, detachment, all those kind of ideas. But to stay with the idea of engagement, which for Heidegger was a big deal, a kind of proto-conceptual, pre-conceptual way of engaging in the world, a way of being -in-the-world, which was kind of idealized, I think, in a lot of his thinking. A kind of unreflective, authentic way of being in the world. But one of the things he talks about elsewhere, which kind of relates to that, and which certainly deploys some of the same metaphors, is what he talks about in relation to his idea of being thrown into the world. This is in Being in Time, I think he talks about this. That we kind of appear thrown into the world. We just kind of find ourselves here. You know, we could have. I think in the previous video I kind of cite a Talking Heads song. You might find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile and you think, how did I get here? How did I work this? It's a kind of like that. It's like the existential crisis that we're all born into. The world precedes us and is rushing on along a pace, and here we are bushing along with it. Here we are thrown into the world, catapulted into the fast lane of a motorway. We're not really realising, and not having been taught how to drive. What do we do in that situation? And for Heidegger, if I understand him correctly, he talks about, obviously you can't say, you know, get out of the car, learn to drive, do all that kind of reflective stuff. That's not his game at all. It's much more to do with kind of accepting the world as it is, accepting oneself as one is, and engaging not only with the world but with the concept of oneself. And the way he phrases it, or the way he's translated this phrase, is taking hold of oneself. Taking hold of oneself. So there, I think, is that tactile and kinesthetic metaphor being mobilized. It's not like stand back from yourself and give yourself a good long look. Nothing like that at all. It's get really close up to yourself and get a hold of yourself. Take hold of yourself. And if you like, plank yourself into the world firmly, as the world is and as you are. And by doing that, you're kind of satisfying the need for authenticity or something, I guess. So yeah, I guess that's something to do with that. I suppose it finds itself in a vernacular. That kind of metaphor plays itself out in a vernacular way. When we tell somebody to get a grip, oh, get a grip of yourself, will you? If someone is not appears to be buffeted by circumstances, and appears to have been thrown into a world that they are not at home, and they are bending like straws in the wind. You say, get a grip of yourself, will you? I don't suppose we realise we're quoting Heidegger at those moments. Maybe we are. Maybe it's just a kind of existential truth embedded in that vernacular statement. But I suppose it's to do, for me anyway, it's to do with that metaphor of touch. And also the metaphor of proximity. You get right up close to your sense of self. You're not eccentric, you're not looking at yourself from a distance, you're not out there in a, as I say, reflective way. You're really up close to yourself. Closer to yourself than anything else could be, really. Taking hold of yourself.